Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Well, today, my friends, we have my friend, LaFern Batie of the Batie Group. And she is way more than that. LaFern, before she gets to talk, and I'm hoping, and for your sake, I bet you're hoping too, this will be the last time I'm talking, because you got to be about sick of me by now. But if it wasn't for LaFern Batie, I would have never been able to write this book in 5 days. She gave me an outline on the Courtney Campbell Causeway. There's a theme, you know. Eric and I bike on the Courtney Campbell Causeway, and LaFern and I, well, LaFern kicks my ass on the Courtney Campbell Causeway. Sorry. But that's how it goes. So I brought LaFern on today because I can. And because if there was anybody I wanted to speak to during this month of June, which, you know, is all these things, it's Pride Month, it's Professional Wellness Month, it's Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Month, it's a lot of things, but it is a tumultuous time. And I wanted to bring in the women leaders that I believe would be able to speak best about what we are currently experiencing. And I can spend some more time, like I did with Alex and with Eric, just listening. So LaFern Batie, welcome to the show.
I am thrilled to be here, Sharon. Thank you so much for the invitation.
And just take it from here. Just teach all of us, please.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is very early on, I thought I would be an educator in the school system, loved my teachers like so many students did. I was the teacher's pet and loved everything about education and the learning process. But I found that even in business, that's what I do. I spend a lot of time engaging with and helping others bring out the best of who they are. So in an environment like this that we're facing right now, of course, it's what folks call the pandemic. I call it a sacred retreat because I believe how we describe what we're experiencing without denying the reality of it shapes where we are. On top of that, or bubbling all around it, because I don't even say on top of it. On top of it sounds like it's an addition, but something that's always been bubbling around that we've not had nearly as many conversations about that I'm seeing now, maybe because it's the advent of the internet and social media, high usage, and being able to see more conversations. But our country and our allies around the world are in turmoil. And it's simply the boiling pot. That's what it's that, if you've cooked, as I hope all of us have at least boiled water, start to cook, start to warm it up, start to heat it up, and all of a sudden you see that it's boiling because of what's happening on the top, when at the same time, this action has been happening at the base for a long time. And it's really an ideal time for us to have really challenging, candid, courageous, open, genuine, emotion-filled conversations. And I believe that the way we get beyond it is not my conversation that I have with the person that I expect to be on complete opposite ends of the spectrum from me. I don't desire to have that conversation because it's a waste of my breath. But I do believe a good investment of my time and energy is talking with people who consider themselves progressive and having conversations around how that looks, because I've seen it in little bits and pieces that I know maybe folks will say, LaFern, you're highly sensitive to it, and perhaps I am, I should be. But in little ways that it shows up that to me today says, I'm not sure you really understand how that feels to me and what makes it important for us to have conversations. And I want everybody to be unafraid of saying the wrong thing, because saying nothing is worse than saying the wrong thing. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. That is, I just got an email from a client that asked if maybe we should pause our, media for a moment. And I thought, wow, if you're asking me now, I have to tell you, it's actually the worst time, in my opinion, to say nothing. Don't say anything, obviously in anger or in ignorance. Have thoughtful conversation with maybe somebody more educated than you are in a matter such as what we are going through right now with all of the racial turmoil that is going on, that I just 100% agree. And I spoke about it yesterday too, that we are generational trauma coming to the surface. And I really do believe that it is a time for us to speak up, but speak to somebody else first, maybe.
Yeah. And it's a good idea. And I can speak for who I am, and that I am not as sensitive to the person who comes to me in emotion, because I've seen it and I've heard it, or the person who is really completely ignorant about certain aspects of this movement, but there's something at the core of that person's being wants to be better. Mm-hmm. So the one aspect of this whole experience that we're having is, and I think this is what challenges a lot of people, I know it challenges me, we're so surprised. And I think, how in the heck can you be surprised? I love my country. I don't want to live anywhere else. Well, I love my country and I'm not leaving because my ancestors built this country. This was a country that was founded, rooted in violence and oppression. As kids, we grew up celebrating Thanksgiving, and we're just so, the pilgrims and as we call them then, the Indians came together and it was so peaceful, but that was not an accurate depiction of what happened historically. And so you fast forward from there to even the fact that we have a holiday that celebrates someone who was part of the raping and pillaging of this country and the people of it, the natives of this land. And so we are so surprised. And it's kind of almost as if there's an expectation that we just can't, everybody just stop, breathe, and let's just move forward. Well, that to me is the equivalent of asking someone who's been sexually traumatized to never go back to that experience in order to move forward from it.
Just get over it.
Yeah, get over it. Do we just, I'm good, you're good, I didn't cause the problem, you're not a part of the problem, so let's just move forward. And that doesn't resolve the challenges, the deep-seated challenges that we have. But I do believe that not just conversation does that, but conversation is a starting point. But conversation married to action, to I intend to do something. A quick example was someone commented on a post that I shared the other day, and she said, I feel so sorry for you all. Now, to me, even just saying it right now, it causes a physical response, because I'm like, well, if I'm you and you are me, then it's not you all, it's us.
Us, yes.
But what is it that's going to help us bridge the divide between them, us, the fact that we can celebrate our differences, and I love celebrating differences, and respect those differences and still have a love for one another. And not just a superficial, I love you, but an I love you, I'm going to bat for you, even when there's nothing that seemingly directly affects me, even though whatever affects me affects you.
Yeah, and when I spoke to Eric Dungy about this just yesterday, the same thing came up, right? I had mentioned how I was really grateful that I had heard about this white paper about the 75 things that I could do.
Yes.
And he said, which was great, that he said it to me, he said it on the phone before he said it on camera, then he repeated it. And he said, well, what? You didn't know about all these things that you can do? And I'm like, no, like I did not know. And now I can take an action. And my first action was to contact my local police department to see if they had the body cameras. And my email had been escalated up to a sergeant and lieutenant, excuse me. And he responded to me, and no is the answer, by the way. And then I had the follow-up of why, because you can tell me, you can say no, but I'm going to need to know why. And then, so I'm not even on number 2 yet, LaFern.
It's a lot.
There's a lot of work to do.
There is so much work to be done that it can't just feel exhausting. It can be exhausting. And so if I think about having grown up in my experience, having lived this life as a Black woman, I think about the criminal justice system. I look at the educational system. I look at financials, social, you name it, economics. There are so many different fronts to fight on that it can feel exhausting and overwhelming. But even something as simple as, we're here in the state of Florida, and one fact that we know for sure is that there is value given to the vote. There's value given to the vote that says, if we can keep you from having access, whoever you is, if we can keep you from having access, then it allows us to maintain control, whoever us are. So even in Florida, where the citizens of Florida decided that if a felon had paid his or her debt to society, they should be able to legally go through the process of having their voting rights restored. The fact that that is still being fought. So is it a life sentence? Or is it a sentence that you serve during the time that you had to serve it and it's over, and beyond that you can get back to being a fully contributing citizen with your vote? If it were not important, you would not see polls blocked as they were in the 50s and 60s. You would not see redistricting to try to just water down the vote so there could be no control. You wouldn't see changes, last minute changes, polls being closed, rules that are changing, ballots being thrown out, ballots being lost. You wouldn't see that if it didn't have power. And so while I know a lot of people say, well, my vote doesn't count, or why should I go vote? This is what's going to happen anyway. I'll take the presidential election off the table. How about the local officials who are part of your school board, who are part of your sheriff's department, who are the judges? You have a meaningful voice in those communities, the communities that we live in. And so something as simple as, how do I attach myself to the efforts to get people more educated around voting? Little, small steps that have a major impact. But I say, if you're trying to do one thing and you're trying to do that one something consistently, I applaud that. And it's a lot of work, but don't let it exhaust you, because it's not a one and done. This is a lifetime. I grew up under a woman, my mother's 83 years old, and she is a social activist, civil rights activist, has been, still is. And that's what her life commitment is. So it's as if we all have to stand shoulder to shoulder and say, I'm committed for life, because just as you have my back during a cause that's important to me, I've done the same and will do the same for you.
Yay. Well, good, because you have it, we have it recorded now. So LaFern, when I need you, I'm going to call you first.
That's right. Call me. Call away.
Well, I believe that. And that was a big piece of a lot of the conversations I've been having is to do, it's not going to be overnight. Dare I say, I don't condone violence. Okay.
Right.
I don't want businesses to lose their money, but dare I say, it's a good thing. I said the same thing about COVID-19. If the world does not need one good big swoop and shake up,
Yeah.
I mean, even just driving a few minutes ago and looking around and seeing people with masks and without masks, and there's a lot of confusion in the
Right.
world as we know it, and it has been a long time since there has been this much uncertainty.
Yeah.
But with all of that will come something good. I believe that. I know I'm an optimist. I always have been, I always will be. But I do believe, just like with everything else, like you mentioned before, we cannot get to any type of resolution until all of it comes up and it comes out and we actually come to some sort of agreement together as humans. As humans. So, LaFern, you have been very wonderful to me in teaching me a few things. You taught me something when you came into my office not too long ago. And we walked into that room and you told me that, the map actually was not depicting Africa correctly. It was the first, I was all excited to show you this collaborative workspace, which I'm still very proud of. But that every time I show it to somebody now, I tell whoever I bring into the room, it is beautiful, yes, I know, but they're not really depicting Africa the way they should be in this map. Can you
That's
speak
right.
on that?
I absolutely can. And so we were taught, and the maps that we see, even the globes that we use, if you look at the traditional map, whether it's laid out flat or not, it's going to show, if you look at it, it's going to show North America and Africa essentially almost being about the same size. And the sad part is a lot of people don't even know or think about the fact that Africa is a continent and there are many countries on the continent. So we were taught to use that reference, but the scale of the map is drawn inappropriately. It's not true. And so if you think about North America and Europe and parts of Asia, all being able to fit on the African continent, it will give you an idea of how large the continent is. And so the logical question to me was, so how did we decide that, and you'll hear explanations around, well, so we could draw longitude and latitude more appropriately. Okay, I don't accept that. But how do we even determine why was it so important to draw a continent out of scale? So if somebody tells you, I've traveled from the southernmost portion of the continent of Africa to the northernmost portion of Africa, then you can understand why it takes them so long to get there if you understand the size. But if we look at it simply as driving from Canada to Mexico, or from the East Coast to the West Coast, and nothing more than that, or maybe a time and a half type of trip, then we've bought into the mindset around the scaling of the map. Visuals are powerful. And I believe that we hold on to visuals in order to drive behavior, to influence mindset, to dictate beliefs. And whatever you believe in deeply, you engage with or you exclude other people based on those beliefs. And that is a powerful visual. My oldest godson, who serves in the United States Air Force and is stationed in Belgium, cannot come back to the States yet. Was supposed to come back in May, but has not been released to be able to come back. He is a geography freak, loves it, always has. And I actually thought, you know what, I probably should apologize to him for buying him this really fancy globe, how the lights and the electronics to it when he was a kid, because I didn't know that depiction wasn't true. So we think about the power of starting that when we're little kids, teaching us that. And just something as simple as scaling the size of continents that are part of this planet, scaling them in a way that's convenient, but it's a lie. And we just need to call lies lies. That's a lie. It's not true. And it's a powerful learning for me, having visited the African continent. It's powerful to be able to see the beauty of the people, the richness, the very rich resources of the bulk of the populace and resources. So why would you want to undermine the vastness of that continent?
Yeah, it was minimized. It was embarrassing for me for you. And I told you that, you know, and now I say it all the time. I'm like, I didn't make it, but I didn't even know until you pointed it out. I didn't know that this was like a thing. And I get to learn more because I'm curious and I like to ask questions. And we had a great chat yesterday too. And I know that you and I had a nice talk over the weekend about fear about asking questions and fear about having conversations that are meaningful, or maybe you don't know how to say something. I like to think of, you know, how it is sometimes when somebody that we love and we care about loses a family member or a friend, and everybody's there for the funeral and the wake, and you know, because that's what you're supposed to do, and then everybody disappears.
Right.
Because nobody knows what to say.
That's right.
So when I don't know what to say, I know for sure I have to say something. That's like, you know, it's like this opposite life I live, because I know that whatever pops up in this brain of mine the first time isn't always the best. I'm like, okay, I need to make sure that I reach out and I stay in touch and I stay connected through that. And I ask questions. And is it okay that I call you? I know you're in pain. Is it okay? And I felt the same way about seeing all of the riots. I immediately wanted to just call all my friends and ask if you were okay. And so I want to ask you now, are you okay?
Somebody asked me that question yesterday. One of my neighbors asked me, how are you and your family doing? And I said, you know what? We have normalized so much of this because it's the experience we've known forever. The sickness exists in the mind of the racist. And so I choose to shift the dis-ease to the person who cannot see my humanity, who cannot see my humanness. And I've decided I'm not going to own that. I am more determined than I've ever been. I am more committed, more convicted, more focused than I've ever been. And that's just part of my evolution and my elevation. There's nothing wrong with me as it relates to what I'm seeing happening with human beings being killed without second thought, from children to adults. There's nothing wrong with me as it relates to that, but there is a sickness among a lot of people in this world, and more particularly in this country. And so my question is, what's wrong with them? How are they? Because and not even on the extreme side, it's the person who says, I've got your back, LaFern, I'm there with you, I'm supportive. We sacrifice every day going out, and it might seem like an exaggeration, but to go out and to be stopped by a police officer. And this is not a classification of all, but to be stopped automatically sends a signal. LaFern, be careful, be mindful, watch your hands. Protect and serve doesn't apply to you necessarily. That is the first assumption. That is the honest first assumption I am going to make. Do nothing, say nothing with all of your strong opinions. Change who you are so you can stay alive. Change what you are committed to. Change your vocalization around that. Change it so you can live. And so to me, it's a matter of how are we? How are we as, if we look at us as a community, how are we? I know how to adapt and to adjust and to suck the hurt down and the pain down and to turn off the television and to weep or wail if I need to, and I have. Then what? I wake up with that same reality in front of me every single day. So then how do we collectively kind of come together, love on one another? How do we do that? So we can make sure the people we love most are feeling healed or feeling protected. And so when I don't have the energy to go out and fight it anymore, that I know that my white brothers and sisters are going to go out there, like I've seen in some of the communities, and stand as a human shield between me and the person who desires to take my life. That's how I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for making me cry. But it is hard to listen to.
It is. It's hard to live.
Well,
it's hard to listen to, and it's hard to live. And when we all have that level of discomfort and reality, having conversations with people we know, love, and trust, and maybe even people we don't know, don't yet know enough to love, don't yet know enough to trust. I believe when we that emotion to me says, somebody's got me. She cares enough to at least feel my pain.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, Sharon.
I don't want to cry again.
Right.
So it's
I've got liner on the bottom and it's not cute.
Well, and I don't have any, thank God, because the pandemic has taken care of many of my makeup needs that I no longer have. When I started this show, I cried every episode. And now it's like phase 2, month of June, month of May, cried, and then halfway through it was like, oh, well, at least, we're coming back, and then boom.
Yeah.
But, I need to hear this. I need to listen. We all need to hear this, but we need to understand absolutely right now more than to tell that story about our Black friend.
Oh, Lord. Yes. No.
I mean, I can't. It's like, I can't anymore. I am already an introvert. I already choose my friends very wisely because it hurts my ears. Yeah. I can't even imagine what it does for you.
Yeah.
So I believe that now is the time for more conversations that bring your whitey. I couldn't be whiter. I wanted to expose as much white as I could today. To show up and listen to you.
Thank you.
Because we need to listen more.
Yeah. And one book I love, almost didn't listen to it. I listened to it via audio. And I almost didn't listen to it because I thought, oh, she didn't write this book for me, is White Fragility.
Right here.
Right there.
Fragility.
Excellent. And as a matter of fact,
you told me about it over the weekend.
Yes, I'm flipping up my iPad because it comes with a conversation guide, a reading guide that you can download for free, and an educational facilitator's guide. So I love it. Yeah.
We need the tools. We really do. I mean, it was great actually to mention that list that I talked about to Eric before, because his first reaction, he was very candid about it. He was like, I thought that was the dumbest thing. But once he heard that, like, I have an action to take now.
Yes.
I didn't know what to do before. It's not, there's no comparison to anything. When people talk to me about depression, they start to tell me the story about when they were sad because they moved to another country and they were alone for a little while. I was like, okay, talk to me when you're trying to kill yourself.
Yes.
This is not about comparative suffering. This is about us listening.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even stress that enough. Like, just,
yeah. Don't get offended when you hear Black Lives Matter, because saying that doesn't diminish the relevance of other lives. It's just as ignorant as saying, well, why would you go support breast cancer? You know, we've got colon cancer, you know, we've got rectal cancer. Well, nobody is making those comparisons. But from 2013 to 2019, when you have 7,666 people counted that we know of Black lives taken at the hands of the police, that's a pandemic. And it has been one for centuries. I'm glad you're having this conversation, these conversations with different people from different experiences and perspectives, because I'm not the authority on Black folks, but I am the authority on my life. I'm the authority on my emotions. I'm the authority on what I want to see going forward. And I don't diminish that either.
Well, I look to you as a leader, as a woman leader, I told you that when I called you out of nowhere after not talking to you or seeing you for like 4 years. Yeah. I was like, you know, I was thinking, I need you in my life. And you were like, all right.
Well, I'm glad you're in my life. I am. Because I'm like you. I'm careful. I'm very careful about who I have.
Like Cardi B says, be careful with me.
Are we quoting Cardi B?
Yes.
But I'm not gonna.
I did it first, right here at the Dr. Whisperer Show, quoting Cardi B. But I do want to make sure that I get to say thank you.
Thank you.
I also want to say, you know, the purpose behind me even doing this daily show was to bring the healers that I knew. And of course, in my mind, because of the pandemic, it was, you know, the healers, some doctors, some spiritual leaders, some, you know, mental health therapists. And the healers are really people that have healed me. So you are a part of my own healing.
And you are a part of my healing too. Thank you.
We'll end with Sharon crying again. Yeah. Mwah, mwah. I love you. Thank you.
I love you. Enjoy. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. So don't forget, if you mention that you have seen the show or listened to the podcast, Thai Technology, 3 months for free.